Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share with you how I created a mini album to hold photos of our Christmas Day celebrations. To create this album I have used cards, so I bought a pack of 5x7 cards and I'm just going to use those. The video is a bit longer than my normal video, so I hope you can stay with me and watch it all the way through. I don't make you watch every step. I show you how I do something once and then I do that for the rest of the album, so it's not a lot of repetition, so I hope you can enjoy the video with me. I created this album for the challenge over at Mystical Scrapbooks for December. One of the challenges is to create a Christmas project. It can be a layout, a card, and in my case a mini album, using non-conventional Christmas colours. Now, as I said, I started off with 5x7 cards, and the pattern paper that I'm using is this Sunkissed paper pad from Cocoa Vanilla. I have used this paper pad for previous projects, so I didn't have 2 of each of the pattern papers left, but I chose the pattern papers. I needed 10, I think, to cover the insides of my cards. I cut each of those pattern papers so that they were 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. That leaves a 1/4 inch border around, or in total, so only a 1/16 of an inch border around each of my cards. I cut 2 papers for each card, and then I used my Versacolour black ink cube to ink around the edge of each of those. Then I used double-sided tape and attach each of those pattern papers to the inside of each of my cards. I'm going to do that, of course, with all 5 of my cards. I'm not putting any pattern paper on the outside of the card. I saw this way of creating an album. I think it was Heidi Swap did it, and she used her already patterned cards, so that would save using the pattern paper. If you wanted to skip that step, you could get just cards that have already got a pattern on them. Anyway, to create this album, what you do is you attach one card to the other using double-sided tape or whatever you like, and you put tape around 3 sides of your card, so 2 long sides, 1 short side. This is going to create a pocket, so you're going to have a page, a pocket, a page, a pocket. In the pockets I'm going to create tags to put in the pockets as well, so I'm going to do this for each of my 5 cards to join them all together. Tape 2 sides in the bottom and then attach 1 card on top of the other, making sure that you line it up nicely. If you don't line it up nicely, your book gets a bit out of shape, so be a bit particular about that step. So I went ahead and did that for all 5 cards, and you can see here we got our pocket at the top and our 5 pages in our album, and it's now a little book. You could do this with any size of card, but I chose the 5x7s because I want to be able to put a full 6x4 photo on the pages. I chose 2 more papers from the pack to be the front and back covers of the album. So these will be attached to the actual card, and I will attach them all the way around. First of all, I'll ink the edges with my black ink cube, and then I'll use my double-sided tape on all 4 sides of the pattern paper, or for all 4 edges, and then attach that to the front and back of the album. To create my spine, I'm going to use a piece of POW gold glitter card. I'm going to trim that down so that it's 1.5 inches by 7 inches. I folded that around my album and then used my bone folder to really crease those folds in so that it's a nice fit with some nice crisp folds. I used art glitter glue to attach the back section of the spine to the back section of the album. I didn't put any glue or any adhesive whatsoever on the actual centre section of the spine, and I didn't put any on the front either because I wanted to add some other things to the front before I actually stuck that down. So all I'm doing is attaching the back section of the spine to the back of the album. To enhance the front of my album a little, I've cut 2 strips of paper from the pad, and I've cut them I think about 1.5 inches. One of them I'm going to punch the edge of using a Martha Stewart punch. The other is going to remain straight edged. Now I'm going to attach the punched one on top of the other one so that about probably 3/4 of an inch of the straight edged piece is showing beyond the scalloped edge piece. I use my liquid glue when I'm doing things like this because it gives me a bit of wriggle room. I've got a bit of time to move things around and make sure that I get them straight. Once I have them stuck together, I measure them, cut them to the correct length, ink around the edge of them, and then attach them to the front of the album. And I put them underneath, just slightly underneath that gold cardstock that's coming around the front of the album. I apply glue to only the front section of that gold cardstock. There is no glue in the centre section at all. I've taken my album now to my sewing machine and I've stitched around the 3 sides of each page to make sure that my pages will stay stuck together. This way I don't have to worry about the glue giving out at any time in the future. It was a bit fiddly to do, but worth the effort, I think. Each of the pockets in my album are going to have a card in them, a tag I guess you'd call it, that will hold a photo, and on the back I wanted to have a journaling spot that would be able to hold the information about the photo that's on the tag. So I've used this stamp, and I don't know what brand it is, or I think I've bought it second-hand from somebody. Anyway, I've stamped that using my Versafine Onyx black ink onto some white cardstock, and then I fussy cut each one of them. I made 4 of them. I've cut my 4 tags, you can see them just there, and they are 4 inches by 6¼ inches. Because I've stitched around my pockets, that narrowed the pocket down a little bit, and I found that I had to trim my tags down to 4 inches to get them in there properly. Now I'm going to cut a piece of pattern paper for each one of those 4. I'm only going to put pattern paper on the back of the tag because I want the photo to go on the front, and so I don't think I need to put pattern paper on that because it will just be covered up by the photo. So I'm cutting each pattern paper down to 6 by 3 3/4. Now I'm going to ink around the edge of each of those and use my double-sided tape to attach them to my tags. I'm going to then use double-sided tape as well, again to attach my journaling blocks to over the top of that pattern paper. I'm going to create something to put on the top of my tags now so that they're easy to pull out of their pockets. I'm using this Kaisercolour sparkle stamp. I'm going to use the Christmas tree and the Christmas bauble. I'm going to stamp them with my Versafine Onyx Jet Black ink, and then heat emboss them with clear embossing powder. Once I've done that, I'm going to fussy cut each one. I'm going to do 4 of the baubles and 4 of the Christmas trees because I want to put them back to back. I've chosen symmetrical shapes so that I won't have a problem doing that. I'll run around the back of each of my shapes with a black texture so that when I am attaching them to each other, if there is a little bit of not quite lining up, it's not going to stand out. Now I'm sticking one image to the front of the tag, and then I'm lining up the back of the same image so that they line up perfectly, hopefully, and that gives me something to pull my tag out of my pocket with. I'm using liquid glue once again because that gives me the opportunity to wiggle things around a little to make sure that I get them lined up as best as I can. Now I'm going to start to embellish the inside a little. I am not going over the top with embellishments here. I want to keep it fairly plain and simple. One page on each opening will be left completely clear except for a little journaling tab that I'll put down the bottom so that information can be written on that if wanted. And the opposite page to it will have a pocket. Some will have pockets across the bottom and some will have pockets coming down the side. The pockets won't have anything in them. They will be able to hold photos if there are an abundance of photos to be had. So each pocket is going to have a little row of cardstock above it so that it shows that there's actually a pocket there, and each pocket will have a little embellishment on it. As I said, I'm trying to keep it as flat as possible and as simple as possible. Some of the embellishments come from Kaisercolour wooden Flourish pack for the Starry Night collection, and I also used some of the Collectables from the same collection. I have used some Kaisercolour Dusty Pink paint to paint some of those wooden shapes as well. I'll also make some embellishments using some dies and some of the pattern paper from the collection that I'm using. I also used a couple of little ornaments that I bought as in an embellishment pack, and they're the mauve ones that I've used. So yeah, there's quite an assortment of embellishments in there that come from a lot of different places. For this page I decided to go with a corner pocket, so I've cut a triangle of pattern paper and then worked out how to get a strip of blue across that so that it fitted nicely across the page. Once again, all of the pattern papers that I've used throughout this album have had their edges inked. I always ink the edges of my papers because I really like the look it gives. For the title for my album to go on the front of the book, I've used some of the pattern paper and this Tim Holtz Alterations die called Inside Out to cut the Christmas Day. Later on, when I actually use the album, I will put what year is on there. I've been caught before with I've put a year on there and then didn't use it, and so the book was not of any use anymore. So this time I'm just going to put Christmas Day. And when I do actually put the photos in there, I will write or I will cut out the numbers so that we know what year it is. I also used my Poinsettia die to cut out enough layers to make 3 poinsettias and corresponding leaves. I inked around the edge of all of those layers, and then I used my flower shaping tool to just crease into the back of each one of those petals on each layer. I did this for all 4 layers. There's 4 layers in each petal, in each flower. I also shaped and inked around the leaves and the little yellow dots that go in the centres of the flowers. Once I had the shaping done, I used my art glitter glue to just put a little dab in the middle of each flower and then layered them on top of each other so that the petals were offset. I pushed down into the centre of each flower once I had all of my layers glued together and on top of my soft mat, and that helps give each flower a bit more shape. Now that my flowers are complete, I went ahead and attached them to the front cover of my album. I've attached two down at the bottom with leaves. I've two different sets of leaves, the green ones and the blue ones. I've also attached a little banner across the top from the Collectables pack. The title will also be added using glue. The third poinsettia was attached to that corner pocket that I put on the final page, along with two leaves. Now I'm going to go back and add those little journaling spots to the plain pages that haven't got the pockets on them. I'm not attaching them fully, I'm only attaching them on the side so that the photo can slip underneath it if it needs to. And I'm just going to work my way through the book and finish bits and pieces off. So I'm going to just put on a bit of music and let you watch this process. I will speed it up a bit so it's not too long. So here we have a flip through of the album now that it's finished. Each pocket has its little tag with its journaling spot on the back, and there's a pocket on each double page and a few light embellishments, not too many. I'm sure that this album will hold plenty of photos of our Christmas day. There's so much room that I'll be surprised if we use it all. Anyway, we're into the photographs now, the close-ups or the stills of the album, and I hope you've enjoyed watching my video. As I said, it's a bit longer than normal, and if you've stayed this long, thank you, I appreciate it. If you're not already a subscriber to my channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe, and I hope you can join me for my next video. Bye.